everybody, and welcome to the Halloween special of We Watched a Thing. How you feeling, Dave? You feeling spooky?
I'm well fucking spooky.
That's right, because this week, no new movies out. We hadn't decided last week what we were doing, and then you said, well, hey, it's a couple of days out from Halloween. Why don't we talk some underappreciated horror flicks?
Yeah, seeing as how we couldn't get our fucking acts together and actually do a Halloween episode with guests and things because, life and shit. So
yeah. Well, I'm gonna drag Nooscon for a bonus episode. Maybe I'll put that out Halloween night. I've made her watch some spooky movies, so that'll be fun. But in the meantime, tell me how you went about making this list, because when you first messaged me and you said, should we do 10 or should we do 5? I was like, oh, fuck. I don't know if I can do 10. And then I messaged you back about 3 minutes later saying, okay, I've got 10. Did you find this list really hard?
I found it hard to narrow down. I sort of just off the top of my... I've always got a list of, as you know by now, I'm sure, I've always got whatever genre of movie or TV show, I've always got locked and loaded about 4 or 5 things that I think everyone should fucking watch, and I'm quite happy to shove them down people's throats completely unasked. Yeah. So I sort of had my perennial ones that just sort of fired off, bang, 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 and then thought about it for a couple of days, and I ended up with, I don't know, like 15 or something. Yeah. And the way I narrowed it down, because the purpose of this whole exercise is to give people cool stuff to go and watch.
That's right. We're not just doing our favorite horror movies or anything. It's underappreciated.
Underappreciated horror movies.
Yeah.
So I went to and I looked at what I had as my top 10, and 3 of them are completely fucking unavailable through any legal means whatsoever. And I thought, well, that's just bullshit. I can't put something out there going, everyone should see this, but you can't. So I swapped those out, and they'll just be honorable mentions that people, should they sail the 7 seas, can go find for themselves.
Yeah.
So that was how I got to my 10, is taking out stuff that I can't hand on heart say, hey, it's on Netflix or it's on whatever.
Yeah.
So every single one of my 10, I can tell people where to find it. Some of them might require a $3 or $4 Apple rental or something, but they're all available.
Yeah.
And then I'll throw a couple of honorables out there at the end.
Yeah. Nice. Well, my 10 I feel like are all relatively well known. There's maybe only 1 or 2 that I think might not be widely known, but they're movies that I feel were or are still underappreciated. So that's kind of the route I took with it. Before we go any further, too, let me just shout out that I have finally got around to setting up a listener community Facebook group for the show.
I was just going to talk about you off mic about this, but you jumped the gun.
I did. I went ahead and did it. Because with topics like this in particular, we've been asking for more listener feedback and maybe even throwing up a vote at the end. And that's stuff that we couldn't really do on the Facebook page, and Twitter seems dead. So if you're enjoying the show and if you want, to have your feedback shouted out and stuff, go join the listener group. I'll chuck a link in the show notes.
And let's face it, we'll probably be pimping the shit out of this for the next few weeks. So if you missed that post, there'll be others.
Yeah. All right, well, let's crack into it then. And I'm just going to tell you off the bat, you're going to be really, really pissed off with at least one of my choices.
If you've got Hoobie Halloween on here...
No, that movie slaps, but it's more of a comedy than a horror, so that wouldn't make the list.
It does not.
All right, why don't you kick us off with your number 10?
I'll be checking all of your entries against the Bible.
Oh, yes, you're holding up your little book that you wrote. I can't believe you got that printed and everything. It looks amazing.
I am a good friend to my friends. My number 10 is one of the ones I swapped out. So the original number 10 is just sadly unavailable, so I swapped it out. And my number 10 is an Australian film. It's fairly recent. I want to say it's about 2 years ago it would have come out. It's called The Furies.
An Australian film?
Yes.
There
are many films called The Furies, I should specify. This is the Australian one, directed, if I'm not mistaken, by Tony D'Acchino, and I think it's about the only thing of note he's done. It concerns a heroine wakes up sort of in a big crate out in the middle of the Australian bush. No idea where she is or how she got there or anything. And then she sees there are other sort of trunks or crates opening and other women getting out of them.
Yep.
And none of them know who they are. They know who they are. They don't know how they got there or what's going on. And then they soon discover that they're being stalked by these seemingly crazed killers, all with scary masks on. And they have to obviously, flee from these guys. They discover that they're sort of penned in by this electrical fence that forms a perimeter around this sort of big area. And if they go past that, they die. And then it's a question of just, run and hide and work out what the hell's going on. And it's just, for something that is written by nobody of note, sorry if you're a listener, but I don't know any of the shit in the credits, directed by a guy who has only got a few things, none of which I recognize. And it's really well made. It's all on location stuff. It's all practical effects. It's as gory as fuck. It has one of the harshest kills. It's not as over the top as stuff like Terrifier or Bone Tomahawk.
Yeah,
but it's so real and visceral and prolonged and slow. This movie is not for the squeamish or faint-hearted at all. But it's really well made. It's kind of gritty, and it has an ending that you will never see coming a million miles away, which I liked, but it's one of those things that kind of also irritates you. And I can't say why it irritates me, or it hints at a sequel that is never going to happen.
Okay, yeah.
One of those endings, which it kind of pisses me off, but I think it's certainly a cool surprise, and I didn't see it coming. Yeah. And I think, for what has to be a low-budget film, because there's no one of note.
It is. I haven't seen it, but my wife's dad's girlfriend's daughter is in it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I know
in a major role, or just...
I believe so.
Cool. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, so
I was super impressed. I've seen this twice now, and I bought it on. It's on Blu-ray or 4K. I do own it because I was that impressed by it.
Yeah, nice.
And if you're not too squeamish and you can handle a bit of claret and a bit of the old ultra violence, as Alex Gillard would say, it's definitely worth seeking out. And readily available on Shudder, Prime, or AMC Plus if you're in parts of the world that have those streaming services.
All right. Well, my number 10 is here at number 10 on the list because it's probably more horror adjacent. It's a psychological horror. And I'm going all the way back to the 70s. This is the oldest film on my list. And it's a film starring Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, can I guess?
Yes, you can.
Is it Magic?
It is Magic. Yes. Great film. Yep. It's basically the story of a man and his ventriloquist dummy. I was reminded of this film recently because my kids are at that age where they've started to get into Goosebumps. And
Slappy or whatever.
Slappy, yeah. So we watched Night of the Living Dummy the other night, the old 90s TV episode, and it just reminded me of this.
Slappy is pretty much based on the ventriloquist dummy in Magic.
100%,
yeah.
That's what made me think of it, and I was like, oh fuck, I should rewatch Magic. It's a great, and I don't know, the other reason it's down here at number 10 is I don't know how much this falls into underappreciated or whether it's more just forgotten. Like I just feel like
I think same old. If it's people aren't talking about it, people aren't watching it still. It's kind of, there's films from the 70s that still get played, still get talked about. Magic is very much not in that camp. So I think it totally qualifies.
So
have you read the book?
No, I've not. No,
it's a William Goldman book.
I fucking love William Goldman. Princess Bride.
Princess Bride, Marathon Man, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Yeah. One of my top 5 authors of all time. I love
great
his
screenwriter
books.
Too.
The best screenwriter.
Yes.
And I can't recall if he did the screenplay for this, but it's definitely his novel.
I'll have to double check. Yeah, right. Well, there you go. That's my number 10, Magic. If you haven't seen it, check it out. It's more of a, like I said, it's more that descent into madness psychological horror than it is.
Hopkins is so good.
He's fantastic.
And so young.
Yeah. I forgot how young he was.
If you've never seen Anthony Hopkins without wrinkles and with dark hair...
All right, on to your number 9, mate.
Number 9, another Australian film, because we're unsung in the horror genre, and we do some good stuff. This is a film by writer-director Kaya Roach Turner, who is got a certain amount of notoriety now for Wormwood and Wormwood.
Yes. Okay.
Road of Apocalypse or something.
Yeah.
His two super cool zombie apocalypse meets Mad Max post-apocalyptic films, which are both highly recommended, but I feel like they're quite well known for horror aficionados. But in between those two films, he did a film called Necrotronic.
Okay, I haven't even heard of it.
Which stars Ben O'Toole, who the year after Necrotronic was in another film called Bloody Hell, which almost made this list. But he's a regular bloke. He's a garbo from memory. He and his mate drive their garbage truck around picking up rubbish. And through weird plot machinations, which I won't go into, ends up finding out that he is a necromancer or a demon hunter. Yep. David Wenham and his two attractive female. I think they're his daughters. Yeah. Who are all demon hunters. Sort of pull him into their inner circle, and he starts learning the ropes of how to hunt and kill demons. All the demons that are rising are controlled and ruled over by the demon goddess, played by Monica Bellucci.
Right, in an Australian
How they
film.
fucking scored her. And this movie is like Wormwood, the Wormwood films. It punches so far above its weight in terms of how good it looks, the effects.
Yeah, right.
Everything. It looks fantastic. It is hysterically funny. The screenplay is amazing. There are so many laugh out loud lines in this. Ben O'Toole's best mate, Rangi, who's this Kiwi guy that's his sort of buddy, ends up, and it's not really a spoiler because it happens very early on and it's not important to the plot. He ends up being killed, but it is a revenant. So he's kind of like what's his name in American Werewolf in London? He's kind of the comedy sidekick who's undead. Yeah. But it's so funny. Yeah, and nice. You would absolutely love it.
I will add it to the list.
Cannot recommend it highly enough. It is a absolute good time. Best $4.99 rental you could spend on Apple. Fantastic. Nice. And the two daughters, one of whom you wouldn't have probably seen much unless you watched the short-lived Jason Bourne spin-off Treadstone on TV. But the other one, Carolyn Ford, anyone who watched The Amazing Carnival Row will be familiar with. She was in that.
Cool.
And David Wenham, so there's some good people in it.
Monica Bellucci. Yeah. All right. My number 9, like I said at the start, I feel like all of my films are relatively well known, and this is one of them. I feel like this is one that at the time it came out, maybe people were more aware of, and now it's just really fallen off. It's a Stephen King adaptation because I love my Stephen King, and this one is starring Johnny Depp. It's Secret Window.
Yeah, I remember you saying you were keen to rewatch that.
I love this movie.
It's a good movie.
I think it's been well forgotten. Like, you could say, name me 5 Stephen King adaptations, and most people wouldn't have trouble at all. But I feel like you'd probably get to 15 or 20 before somebody named this one.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I know I like it. I know I've seen it multiple times, but it blurs together with me. I think I said this before. It blurs together with me with The Dark Half with Timothy Hutton.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Because they're both about horror writers.
Which is, it's a thing. Stephen King is a writer.
Things about, they sort of
got misery in the mix as well.
There's elements, plot elements of plagiarism and writer's block. And there's sort of a little bit of crossover, so I tend to get them muddled a bit. Now, Secret Window, is that the one with John Turturro?
I don't recall.
Is he being accused of plagiarism by someone?
I don't recall. It's been a while, but...
See, I need to go and rewatch them both now as well, because I'm getting them... They're all just blurred together in my mind.
I will warn you, there's a website you can go to, doesthedogdie.com, and it will tell you if the dog dies in a movie. I'll tell you right now, dog dies in this one.
I don't own pets. I don't get why that website even exists. But apparently, people really have an issue with that sort of thing.
Yeah. All right. Your number 8.
8. This is probably I gotta say, this is the kind of least underappreciated. I kind of feel like everyone should know about this, but no one ever talks about it, so I'm putting it in here. It's a film called The Voices.
The Voices?
With Ryan Reynolds.
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Oh, there we go. Oh, that works then. So I should have written down years for these. I'm going to say this is probably 5, 6, 7 years old, maybe. Yeah. I know it was sort of around about the time he was doing kind of shit like The Proposal and R.I.P.D. and that sort of, big mainstream paycheck shit. But then he did a couple of absolute bangers. One of them was a film called Buried.
Yeah, Buried,
which is
classic.
Basically the entire movie is a close up of his face while he's in a coffin.
Yes,
and probably the best acting he's ever done. I think that's a cracking film.
Yeah.
But then he also did this film, The Voices, which is written and directed by Marjan Satrapi, who is an Iranian lady,
right?
Who sort of lived through the fall of the Shah and all of that, and then moved to France when she was a teenager or early 20s or something. Wrote amazing graphic novel called Persepolis, which is and then made an animated film of that, which is awesome. It's just sort of black and white, fairly simple animation, but really, really moving, about sort of her childhood and all of that. And then out of the blue did this thing, which is about Ryan Reynolds, who's this, I'm going to say he has social difficulties. He works in a factory packing boxes, is cheery and happy and bubbly to the point of being, you think maybe he's got intellectual, slightly handicapped. Yeah. But you find out as the movie progresses that he's on fairly heavy medication. He regularly sees a psychiatrist played by Jackie Weaver, who sort of is kind of asking him, how are you adjusting? How's life? And he's sort of got a friendship with a girl at work played by Anna Kendrick.
Yeah.
And
makes sense why this is on your list now.
And he has a crush on a girl at work played by Gemma Arterton. I think the boxes are being checked. But then when he goes home, he's got a dog and a cat who talk to him, and he talks back. And Ryan Reynolds voices both of them. The cat's got a Scottish accent. The dog's got a sort of a voice. And so you've got it's peak Ryan Reynolds in that sense. But he goes off his medication at one point.
Yeah.
And then people start dying.
So is it a horror comedy or
it's a horror it's probably more of a comedy than a horror. There is a fair amount of blood in it and killings and decapitations and and it doesn't end happy, but it's pure Ryan Reynolds. So
nice.
Serial killer movie but with Ryan Reynolds.
Well, that one's definitely on the list. Yeah.
I think it is. It's what I mean, along with Buried, it's probably the best thing he's ever done.
Yeah.
It's possibly the funniest he's ever been. Yeah. And that includes his Twitter account, which is some of the best comedy on the planet. It's so unique and so enjoyable to watch. And you don't, people who aren't really into horror will still appreciate it because he's our protagonist and our hero. So at no point is anything scary or even, exciting in that sense.
Yeah.
It's more kind of watching this guy unravel and how he deals with it, but still being funny.
Yeah, cool.
And it's, him voicing the pets is kind of what makes it, because the conversations he has with the pets are so funny. The cat and the dog do not get along. The dog's kind of friendly and stupid, and the cat's this scathing Scottish voice. and kind of the devil on his shoulder going, you should kill her. You'll feel better.
I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, all right. Really, really good.
My number 8, I think I've shown already, with Secret Window, my sweet spot for horror movies, thrillers is, 90s, early 2000s, and I'm going right back there. This is a movie that I never understood why this wasn't more widely recognized. It's got a banging cast of Annette Bening and Robert Downey Jr. Do you know the movie I'm talking about now? No. See, this is what I mean. Nobody saw this movie. It's called In Dreams.
Oh,
okay.
I don't think so.
Came out around the same time as The Gift with Kate Blanchett.
Gift.
Great movie.
Katie Holmes, I think you should have at the top of that list.
And it's a similar-ish kind of premise. Annette Bening's daughter goes missing, is found dead at the bottom of a lake, and Annette Bening believes that she is having kind of premonitions and kind of inserts herself into the search for her daughter, like for the murderer. And it's a great movie. It's more creepy than scary, probably, but it uses a lot of atmosphere. Like there's big scenes set at like an apple orchard. There's big scenes set around like a town that was flooded. Like it's a great atmospheric kind of, I guess, fantasy horror. I can't recommend it enough. Both Annette Bening and Robert Downey Jr. are great in it. So if you haven't seen it, Mate, go check it out.
That's
why it's on this list, because nobody saw it, and I don't know why. I loved this movie. This was one of the old, video store day movies for me, where I rented it back then, and I've watched it a few times since. Big fan.
Yeah, no, never even heard of it. So
all right,
might check that out tonight after this.
Nice,
very keen.
You're number 7.
Alrighty, number 7. You may already know this, but I'm a huge fan of Italian horror director Dario Argento.
You're kidding. You're kidding. Hey, okay, keep going. Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, obviously, he's got some big classic things like Suspiria and that.
Yes.
That,
okay. So
everyone knows.
Yep.
And that, along with The Exorcist, is probably my favorite horror movie of all time. But I feel like his pre-Suspiria stuff kind of gets overlooked. And all three of those films are great. Bird with the Crystal Plumage, Cat o' Nine Tails are great. What I'm going with here is Four Flies on Grey Velvet.
Okay, I haven't heard of this one.
Not only is one of the coolest movie titles of all time, it's just an amazing giallo psychological slasher type film. Concerns a musician, and it's hard to sort of touch the plot because, like all of those, you kind of need to go on the mystery journey of the film. But so stylishly directed, it has one of the best death scenes in cinema history that is delivered in such incredible slow motion that you've sort of got bits of broken glass moving across the screen like this. Yeah. You're close in on the victim's face. Absolutely amazing. And it's right at the end of the film. So I don't want to even talk about what sort of a death it is. It's sort of the last thing just before the credits roll. But it's super fucking stylish.
Yeah.
Score by Ennio Morricone is amazing, especially over that final death scene. But the whole score is amazing. And yeah, can't recommend it highly enough. Close to a 5 out of 5 film for me. It's nice. And everything that he did prior to sort of the mid 80s, I think, is close to 5 out of 5 stuff. And then you got very much diminishing returns after probably Creepers or Opera. It sort of goes a bit downhill for Argento. But up until then, he's one of the best directors of horror around. And Four Flies on Grey Velvet, which if you've got Plex, it's one of the things you can stream for free.
Oh, okay. Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Well, over to my number 7. The reason I had a little chuckle, and oh my God, seriously, when you started talking, is that my number 7, in 1977, classic director Dario Argento put out Suspiria, one of the greatest horror films ever made. And then in 2018, it was remade into one of the most underappreciated horror films ever made.
It's not as good, but it is very good. And Tilda Swinton should have got a Best Actress and wasn't even nominated because the Academy sucks.
Well, and here's the thing: like, I'm actually surprised that you. Well, I thought this was the one that would piss you off, me having this on here, because I know how much you love the original Suspiria, and so do I.
I don't think it's as good.
It's not as good. No, of course not. I think
it's a little.
But here's the thing: it's a different.
It's well made.
But here's the thing: it's a different film, and I think that a lot of people hated it just because it was a different film, and it's like, why'd they bother remaking? But you know what? I think
it doesn't fall in that camp for me at all. I think it's you cannot fault the filmmaking. It's beautifully made.
Yes, the acting I think is great. Like Tilda Swinton was
mental blank. 50 Shades. What's her name?
Dakota Johnson.
Thank you.
I agree. I agree. She blew me out of the water in this film. I've never seen her in anything apart from bloody. I hadn't even seen 50 Shades. I just heard of it and I wasn't going to bloody watch it. But she was amazing in this movie.
Yeah. Dame Mia Goth, who just missed my top 10 last week when we were doing people we'd watch do anything.
Yeah.
So good. And I mean, Tilda Swinton, Jesus Christ, 3 roles, and one of them, if anyone who claims they knew it was her,
80-year-old
man. Dude, you're fucking lying. I don't believe you, because she is unrecognizable in that. I couldn't even pick that it was someone in a lot of makeup. I just thought it was an old dude.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Should have got the Oscar for makeup. Should have got an Oscar for Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
And if they gave Oscars for unsettling death scenes. That fucking ballet thing where the woman is slowly broken bone by bone.
It's
Oh my
good.
God, that's a rough watch.
Yeah. All right, well, there you go. That's my
Good
number
pick.
7, Suspiria. On to you for your number 6.
666. Ooh, yeah, 666. Very horror. I'm going with a film called He Never Died.
I haven't seen it.
Which is it's freely available on Netflix. You don't even need to pay a rental for this one. Written and directed by a guy called Jason Krawczyk, who has not done anything else of note other than write the sequel She Never Died, and does have a film in post-production called Sunset Superman, which does sound quite cool about a home invasion. But He Never Died we have a main character played by Henry Rollins, and he's and I should say I will put up links to trailers for all of these afterwards, so if people want to kind of get a sense of them to see if it. I'm not putting up a trailer for this because the trailer spoils it. Do not watch the trailer for this because it fucking spoils kind of the big twist of it. It's one of those, it's why Billy and I hate trailers, because they do shit like that. But yeah, Rollins plays this everyday schlub. He lives a quiet life in his little apartment. He goes and he plays bingo in the evenings and leads a completely unremarkable life. And then is in this. So he plays bingo. He goes to this local diner where he's obviously got a crush on the waitress, but doesn't ever act on that. He just sort of goes there for every meal. And then this young girl comes into his life claiming to be his daughter, and things happen to her that force him to sort of spring into action and try and he has to go and save her essentially from some bad gangster types. Anything else is going to be a spoiler, but the movie fucking goes places.
Yeah. Okay.
Henry Rollins is a revelation. He is a force of nature in this movie.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
I like him. So, I mean, you've got me just on him. Like that.
This is not like Johnny Mnemonic, Henry Rollins doing a stunt casting. This is, it was written with him in mind.
Yeah.
And Jason Krawczyk, who I did message through Twitter a few years back saying, fuck, I love your movies, dude. When's the third one? Because it once you sort of watch She Never Died, there's obviously a third film that has never happened, which pisses me off because I want to know where that story goes. But he did say, and I've since seen Rollins interviewed where he said the same thing. This guy just wrote this thing with Rollins in mind and sent it to him. And Rollins got the script, and Henry Rollins gets fucking scripts all over the place. Yeah. He got it, read it, got straight in touch with the guy and said, "When do we start?"
Yeah, right.
And this guy had never thought he'd get a response. And he was like, still looking for funding.
Yeah.
But no, it's so worth seeing.
Nice. All right. It's on the list.
Fan.
All right. Well, my number 6 is a movie that I doubt you've heard of. I doubt lots of people have heard of. It's a 2005 movie. No real big names in the cast. No, it's based on a book by Jack Ketchum, which is a true story. The film is called The Girl Next Door, and it's a true story of a girl.
Not Elisha Cuthbert as the porn star.
No, different movie. No.
Okay.
This is based on the true story of a young girl named Sylvia Likens. You might know that name from the trials and stuff. So basically, mid-50s, her parents were going away and they left her and her younger sister with this aunt who had several sons. And basically what happened is the aunt kept her locked up in the basement, chained up, and just let all of the neighborhood boys come around and do whatever they wanted to her.
Oh my God.
She was down there
to her niece.
Yeah. She was down there for like months, just tortured, raped, all kinds of horrific stuff. And the film itself, the filmmaking isn't anything extraordinary. And I kind of wonder if part of that is why it works and kind of the point, because parts of it almost look like a TV movie. And I think that actually kind of works for the kind of daylighty 50s scenes. It kind of makes everything a bit happy and bubbly and not all that tense. But just the stuff that happened to this girl is just absolutely horrendous. And I think the fact that it is true makes it harder to watch. But
so this one's not a horror comedy.
No, it's not. This one's a straight horror thriller drama. I guess drama mainly, but it's intense and
it sounds like fucking Last House on the Left.
It's just rough. And then if you go down the rabbit hole of reading the Wikipedia page or whatever about this girl, it's shocking, and it just happened in suburbia, like where you just wouldn't expect. So this one's a hard watch. This is the hardest watch on my list. Like, I watch a lot of horror movies and none really affect me. This is kind of the only one that ever did, which is why it makes the list.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're into true crime, or
I'm
I think
intrigued.
it's worth
It doesn't.
a watch.
It doesn't sound pleasant, but I am intrigued.
Yeah.
And
it's not overly.
Last House on the Left meets Flowers in the Attic type of vibe.
And it's not overly gory. Like, what happens to her is horrific, but you don't see a lot of it. Like I said, she was raped several times. It's not like there's brutal rape scenes on screen or anything, but it's a hard watch.
Oh, just the fact that it's her aunt. That's the bit that's kind of sticking in my craw. It's like, oh my God, that's... Yeah. Wow.
All right.
What's it called?
The Girl Next Door.
Girl Next Door.
Yeah.
Let's get it.
Right.
Yeah.
On to your number 5.
Throwing me, because all I can see is Emil Hirsch lusting over his... Yeah. What are we up to? 5. Oh, fuck, I love this movie. All right, readily available on Shudder, or if you don't have Shudder, you can pay $4.99 on Apple for the film Caveat.
Caveat? Haven't heard of it. We haven't had a single crossover. We probably won't.
There's one or two maybes. I don't know. We'll see. Again, it's a film it's written directed by a guy called Damien McCarthy, who's not done anything else of note, much of anything. He has one other horror film that's going to be coming out shortly called Oddity, but you won't know him. You won't know probably any of the cast. But concerns a guy who is a sort of a drifter, unemployed, takes a job that he sees advertised on a whatever the British equivalent of like Craigslist or whatever it is, to go and sort of be a companion to this young woman who's got psychological issues. He's a brother or a cousin or something is the guy placing the ad. He just wants someone to go and basically just sort of in this remote house that she refuses to leave, even though her parents have passed away. He just wants someone to go and be with her because he's worried about her by herself, because he says, oh yeah, she's not all there, but she doesn't want to leave because it's too much emotional attachment to the house. So this guy goes, fucking pay's amazing. All I've got to do is go and give this bitch company. Woohoo! Yeah. Once he gets there, he sort of discovers there is a lot more to the job than the ad described. There is some creepy shit going on in that house. And yeah, I won't say any more, but this film has some really creepy moments.
Yeah, right.
It's very well made. It has the creepiest toy in the history of humanity. If you imagine the ever-ready bunny, but you take all of its fur off and have it just kind of tatty leather.
Yeah.
With its eyes kind of bulging out, and then you starve it for 6 months so that it's all emaciated, and then you just have it randomly start drumming unprompted.
Yeah.
It's horrific. This movie is so well made.
Yeah, right.
So original, and I mean, it didn't. I other than probably Festival Circuit, I don't know that it got a release anywhere. It is on Shudder, so if you've got Shudder, go for broke. But it's so worth seeing. It's genuinely creepy. The fucking rabbit will haunt your nightmares. Really good. Caveat. Caveat.
My number 5 is a film that, despite having a huge cast, was a massive failure at the box office. It was made on only a $15 million budget, and it grossed only 12.
Wow.
And as soon as I say the director, you're going to know what it is. I was a fan of this guy before he was big. He's big now for the MCU and the DCU. I'm talking about James Gunn.
Okay, I know where you're going.
I fell in love with James Gunn from the reality show Scream Queens, which I've made you watch, which is fucking fantastic, from like 2006, I want to say. But I'm talking Slither.
Good film.
I'm a big B movie fan. I love my
and this is a 50s B movie with
monster
a
movies. Yes,
2000s
100%. Story
of
a small town that's overrun by alien parasites. And it's got a fairly big, Nathan Fillion, Elizabeth Banks. Sure, back then they weren't the names they are now.
Fillion's been in, I think, everything he's ever made, hasn't he?
Yeah. But this is just, it's a fun time. Definitely falls into the horror comedy.
Is Michael Rooker in that as well?
Yeah.
It's all of the Gunn's stable of actors, isn't it? Yeah.
Jenna Fisher, who's, I don't know if you've watched the US Office. Yes, but they were married at the time.
I know her because she's super pretty, but I haven't watched it. No.
Well, they were married at the time.
Really?
Which a lot of people don't know. Yeah.
He's married to someone. He's married to the chick from Peacemaker now, isn't he? Because he puts her in everything these days.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, they were married. They got divorced around the time of this, actually. But yeah, no, great movie, good fun. Highly recommend it, especially if, like me, you enjoy your kind of B movie fare. It takes all of those tropes, but like
good
you
effects
said,
for that budget. Though I would have assumed it cost more than that because the effects are actually pretty solid. And not what 100%. You would expect for $15 million bucks. So
there you go. That's my number 5, Slither. Over
fun
to you.
film. I haven't seen that in years. I should watch that again. All right. Now this is another swap out, so I'm not putting that because you can't find it. I am putting a film called Slashback.
Slashback. Haven't heard of it.
It's slash back. One word. So Slashback is all right. Imagine The Thing, which is a good film. A good film. Imagine that story.
A great film.
But set in a remote Canadian fishing village, and instead of a bunch of adult scientists, the multiple aliens need to be fended off by a group of teenage Inuit girls with attitude.
Okay.
It's not as full on as The Thing, but it is a huge amount of fun. The girls, none of whom had acted before, they were all just found. The village where this is filmed, and it's all done on location, they just talent scouted local girls. So none of them had acted before, and they're all great. Yeah. The effects are amazing for what would have been a fuck all budget. Writer-director Nyla Inuksuk, who I'm assuming is an Inuit director. Never heard of him. Doesn't have a huge pedigree of other films. But the effects are really, really great. There's some stunt work. So the alien, I don't want to give too much away, but the aliens sort of take over humans and inhabit their bodies. And the stunt work by the people who then, are those bodies, it's like if anyone's seen Malignant, it's that level of creepy fucking movement and walking. It's really, really well done.
Cool.
I was super impressed. I watched it thinking it looked like something the kids would like because it's all teenage girls. It's, I think, other than Leo, who would love it, I think it's a little bit too much in terms of the violence and deaths and stuff.
Yeah.
But I was so impressed. I watched it again a few weeks later because it's a huge amount of fun. The girl, it's 4 main girls and then some, boys that they're interested in. There's some other teenagers. It's all kids that are the protagonists. But no, super good. You'd like it.
Nice. I'll check it out.
Slashback. Shudder, Prime, and AMC Plus.
All right. My number 4 is the first and probably only real slasher film on my list, which is weird because I love a slasher. Big fan of Scream, Urban Legend, all of those, And this is going back to 1981. I'm sure you've seen this. It's a film called The Burning.
I know the name, but I can't actually remember
what it's about.
Right. I know I've seen it, but probably not since 1981.
It's a camp slasher, effectively. So it came out
at a camp, or like
at a camp. So it's woodsy. It came out the same year actually as Friday the 13th Part 2. And I think a lot of
right
people,
in that sweet spot.
Yeah,
I haven't listened to the 81 episode, but this has got to be on Paul's.
I was just going to say I'm not actually going to say too much about it, other than I think it's really good. But anyone who's interested in hearing more about it, go check out the Slashers podcast. Our great friends Paul from The Countdown and Jason from Binge Movies. They've been looking at the kind of slasher boom from 1980 to 1984, and they do talk about this film. But yeah, I just think it's better than Friday the 13th Part 2, definitely. Which you were saying the other night you haven't seen any of.
I've only seen the first one.
So you've never seen Jason Voorhees.
Well, I have, but like not. I don't recall.
Surely you've seen Jason in Space. You must have seen
I don't recall
Jason
watching
X.
an entire film. That Friday the 13th and Halloween franchises have never resonated with me.
Yeah, right. See, I love a slasher, so Halloween.
I want my horror films either supernatural or grounded in reality. Don't give me a grounded in reality one where there's just.
So your favorite slasher then would be Nightmare on Elm Street because it's supernatural.
Big fan of Nightmare on Elm Street. Big fan of Phantasm, Hellraiser, those franchises.
Yeah.
Or give me a straight slasher like Black Christmas or something.
Yeah.
Don't give me something where the writers haven't bothered to explain why this guy can suddenly reappear somewhere else or survive something that no one could survive. You got to be one or the other. That's why they haven't ever.
Well, that's my number 4, The Burning. Over to you.
Nice. Number 3. All right, this is probably the best known of mine, but I kind of feel like even though it is a very famous director, particularly of horror, this one kind of never gets talked about anymore. And to my mind, it's probably in my top 3 or 4 of his films, and it's John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness.
Ah, right. Yep.
Which I think is one of the ones in his sort of unspoken trilogy, along with. No, it's not. I don't know. Probably talking shit. It's concerns a horror writer very much in the vein of Stephen King or Dean Koontz, called Sutter Kane, played with great aplomb by the immortal Jürgen Prochnow, he of Submarine fame. And he's this reclusive horror writer. His publishers are waiting on his new book, and it's late to be delivered, and so they send one of their sort of agent/investigator guys, Sam Neill, out to go and find him because they don't know where the fuck this guy is, to find him, get the book or find out when it's being delivered and bring it back to them because they're overdue to hit the shelves and millions of fans are all gagging for the thing. He, along with this woman who's employed by the publisher, go on this road trip to try and find this author, Sutter Kane, who lives, ostensibly in this town where all of his books are set. It's all very Derry, Maine and Stephen King. And when they get to this place, the whole town's fucked up and weird. Everything, Sam Neill gets to the point where he doesn't know if he's dreaming or not dreaming. He's seeing things.
Yeah.
And all the while, people around the world are going insane reading his books. Very early on in the film, this guy goes on a rampage with an axe, and all he keeps saying to people is, "Do you read Sutter Kane?" And Sam Neill just basically goes and it's a descent into Lovecraftian hell after that. Cool practical effects. There's some real creepy as shit stuff. Jürgen Prochnow is chewing the scenery like you wouldn't believe. It's amazing. It's great. And I mean, it's not quite The Thing. It's not quite Big Trouble. But I put this up with They Live and some of his absolute best stuff. But it's people seem to forget about it. No one mentions it when they're talking about John Carpenter. This is never one that seems to sort of come into the conversation, and I reckon it's an absolute fucking cracker.
Nice. All right, my number 2 then is similar to yours. It's a big director who was not typically known for horror. They've made a couple of horror films since. And this is a movie with a premise so ridiculous that I think, despite it being actually put together really well and quite creepy at parts, I think its ridiculous premise kind of overshadowed the film as a whole. And I'm talking about Tusk.
Oh, you're not. Come on.
I am. I absolutely am.
Fucking trash.
Tusk is fucking great. Look, I am a giant Kevin Smith fan, but the man has made some stinkers, particularly in the last couple of years. This is not one of them.
Yo-go's. Tusk, come on in.
But I think with this, he kind of showed that he had some good horror sensibilities. And then, particularly with Red State, which I think is a really fantastic film.
Yeah.
But Tusk, yes, its premise is absolutely bonkers. And
it's cooked.
It is. And yet, the sequence of Justin Long actually being transformed into this
him
walrus,
in that suit is more distressing to me than
it is. It's distressing. It is. Yes.
I think the movie's trash. It's not. It's almost Yo-Go's as bad. It's bad, but it is very unsettling to watch.
It's unsettling. And I think that it's a really underrated horror film.
What's his name? Who's the guy? Who's the old dude?
Michael Parks.
Parks is really good. But he's always really good, even though he always plays the same.
There's some,
character.
He does. Yeah, there's some great, kind of double-handed scenes in this film between Michael Parks and Justin Long, and it is really, really tense. The only thing actually that loses this movie for me is Johnny Depp and the Johnny Depp storyline. Once you get into his kind
one
of
where he's playing the
he's
weird
a bit of like Pink
Quebec
Panther
French.
detective. Yeah. Once he pops up and starts investigating, that's when the movie loses it for me. That, despite this being about a man being turned into a walrus, that is the bit that becomes silly, the investigator. But I think the actual walrus scenes
he's
are
never
insane.
been bad in anything that I've seen last week. You're now reminding me
that he's in yoga hoses?
Much as I will defend Mordecai till my dying breath as being a great film with a great performance, he has hammed it up too much on occasion.
I think Tusk is so underrated, though. Like
I'll watch
genuinely...
it. Tell you what, I will watch it again and report back, because I haven't seen it since VHS. And I remember thinking it was garbage. But
don't get me wrong, there's some silly parts, but like you used the word distressing, and I think that's right. Like it's unsettling, which I think is not often pulled off that well in horror movies, and I think here it really is. So there you go, Tusk.
At the end of the day, what happens to Justin Long is on a par with Human Centipede. It is really, sends shivers up your spine, icky.
Yeah. So there you go. All right, we're on to your number one then.
No, 2.
Oh, I totally skipped over my number 3. Tusk was my number 2.
Oh, fucking hell, that's even more ridiculous.
Okay, all right, I'll swap them. Tusk is now number 3, and yep.
Good. So if nothing else, I've managed to put Tusk down one position on your list. So the whole countdown's a success. All right, this was another swap out. So what was there is now an honourable mention, and what is there is another Australian film. Yay! And this time it's a big creature feature, which I know you're a huge fan of.
Is it? Okay. I think I probably know what it is, but go ahead.
Can you guess the type of creature?
Is it a pig?
It is a pig.
Yeah,
this
is a great film. Off pig this is a great Razorback. Film. Yeah, Razorback is great. Good call. Good call.
Yeah, very early, pre-Highlander Russell Mulcahy, just coming fresh off music videos and shit. Directing this amazing creature feature set in the outback, out in the middle of nowhere. Gregory Harrison, who to that point, I mean, they wanted an American name to obviously sell into America, and this was all they could afford. So Gregory Harrison, who was very well known because he just spent 5 years starring on Trapper John MD on TV, but this was his first feature film. He'd done some TV films. This is his first actual theatrical release film. And then you've got kind of a who's who of Aussie actors, the likes of Bill Kerr, Chris Hayward, Judy Morris, John Howard, some big-ass Aussie names. Archie Whiteley, the daughter of famous artist Brett Whiteley, who people would recognise from Mad Max 2 and some other stuff, who very sadly died of cancer in her 30s. Very sad. But the thing that makes this movie amazing is Mulcahy's direction. It looks fucking incredible. The direction on this is... Mulcahy's a weird guy. Highlander, I think, is an incredibly made film. This is an incredibly made film. Highlander 2 was that's up there with Exorcist 2 as one of the what the fuck were they thinking films in history. And then other than kind of being one of the architects behind the Teen Wolf TV show, which is very good, has not done anything of note really ever since. He was one of those big names in music videos sort of in the 80s, and obviously talented as fuck, because these movies look, this movie looks incredible. It's so stylish.
Yeah.
Every frame of it, if you ever get a chance to see Razorback on a big screen, fucking jump at it.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's so much more than it is on paper because of the direction and cinematography, I think.
Yeah. Great film. Great film. Great call. All right. My number 2, because I'm doing a bit of a swapsies, is a film that I think it's finally starting to get a bit more recognition, at least in our circles. I've heard it discussed on a few podcasts of late, and it is a film that I championed when it first came out, which was about 8 years ago now. And it is
Hubie Halloween.
It's probably more of a thriller than a horror, but I think there's enough horror elements there that it deserves being on this list. And I think you might have seen it. I'm talking about a film called The Invitation.
Oh yeah, very good.
Great film.
Very, very good.
Again, probably more of a thriller, but I think it's got enough of the elements there that you can get away with having it on this list. And it's about
like
a
sci-fi horror thriller kind of.
Yeah. It's about a man who who is invited to a dinner party at his ex-wife's house. And I really don't want to say too much about what happens, but basically shit starts going south. And the whole movie really is a bit of a game of what's real, what's not. Is he going crazy? Is she crazy? It's
a good script.
Yeah, it's a great script. It's not a long movie. I think it's about an hour and a half, maybe even less. But yeah, big fan of The Invitation.
Yeah. And who is that? It's one of the Tom Hardleys, isn't it? So the guy from Upload? Not Upload. Sure. Yeah. Upgrade. The guy from Upgrade.
All right. On to your number one.
All righty. Another. Well, technically, it is a British director, but I'm claiming this one as another Australian film because the three main performers are all Australian, and it is a film called Triangle.
Triangle. It rings a bell.
It has Melissa George as the main star, and it has Michael Dorman and Liam Hemsworth. So it's got some good Aussie caliber there. It concerns a young woman who gets sort of dragged along with this group of friends onto a cruise ship. And then psychological horror, timey-wimey shenanigans start happening. It's sort of a time loopy thing. Anything more is probably going to be spoilery because it is a real mind bender. The script and direction on this is fucking next level. It's seriously good. You will never pick where it's going, what's happening, where it's going to end up. It has so many twists and turns, but it's a hugely underrated. I've no idea why this wasn't a massive hit. Than
what year is it from?
I want to say sort of early 2000s.
Okay, it does ring a bell. I feel like I might have seen it at some point.
2009.
Okay, all right. I'll put it on the list.
There, this one is obviously it's my number one. This comes with my highest recommend. It's almost up there with Coherence for me as one of the best written things. Best. The plotting is just sublime, and the direction's amazing.
Right.
Why this guy has done nothing of note other than he did a movie called Detour. With I think Ty Sheridan, which was okay, but considering this is 2009 and there's not really been anything, was this just everything he had just spewed and ejaculated into film, and he had nothing left, and he's just been a creative husk ever since. It's always weird when that happens. He's like, "This is so good. Do you not have anything more for us? Come on."
Nice. All right.
Rent it on Apple, $4.99. There you go.
Do. My number one is another horror comedy, but I think it's so underrated. And maybe you'll tell me it's not. Maybe you'll tell me that this got its due recognition, but I will argue for this film till the cows come home. It's written by Diablo Cody, who I love and adore.
Jennifer's Body.
It's 2009's Jennifer's Body.
Fucking great movie. No, it's done. People that have seen it love it, but it's definitely underappreciated and underseen.
Absolutely fantastic. Megan Fox giving the performance of her lifetime in this film as a possessed high schooler who eats the flesh of her male classmates. Amanda Seyfried is so great in this film,
as in everything. Love
it's
her.
It's so much fun. The horror works, the fun works, the kind of buddy stuff works. I just think that Diablo Cody is a fantastic writer. Like, obviously, she's coming off the back of Juno here. Yep. I love this film. So if you haven't seen it, or if you're one of the people out there who was like, nah, that movie sucks, go rewatch it.
How anyone could say it. If you're female watching it, there's some great sort of sisterhood stuff in it. I think it portrays... Diablo Cody's great at writing interpersonal female relationships between friends. Juno was the same, and I think in this, particularly given the genre and the story, I think the scenes with the two of them and sort of working out the nature of their friendship, or is it more than friendship? Or I think that stuff's really well written. if you're a guy watching it, Megan Fox, come on, and they kiss. It's awesome. But this is another one of the don't tease me with a fucking sequel if you're not going to give it to me. Where is my Amanda Seyfried going off hunting demons movie? I fucking want it. Diablo Cody, I know you're a listener. Give me that film, because I've wanted it since this film came out, and it still hasn't materialized.
Yeah. Right, well, there you go. That's our top 10s. Do you have any honorable mentions you want to run down before I get to some listener comments?
Yeah, I'll quickly run through the ones that I took out because they're hard to find. I had a film called Dell'amore della morte, which in America was called Cemetery Man, which is a fucking fabulous Michel Soavi Italian horror film. Soavi was sort of worked under Dario Argento for many years, so it's got a kind of Argento feel, about Rupert Everett, who has a job as the caretaker of the cemetery, because certain people, after they die, after 7 days, come back to life, and he has to be there to shoot them before they go on a rampage. And it's just it's really fucking weird, but it's amazing. According to Martin Scorsese, it was the greatest film released in 1993.
Right. Okay.
He's on record as saying that, and he says it's one of the best films of the 90s. So there you go. Go seek out Cemetery Man, if you can, because, as I say, came off the list because you can't fucking find it. I also had, but removed because I couldn't tell people where to see it, a zombie apocalypse film called Pontypool.
Oh, yep.
Which is a cracking film set in a radio studio. Stephen McHattie, in just the performance of a lifetime, alongside his wife, Lisa Houle, who's also in it. He's this shock jock who is fielding calls from people as this zombie apocalypse is going on outside in the world, and it's really good. The other one I took out is another Aussie film, possibly the best found footage film of all time. It is a film called Lake Mungo.
Okay, yeah, I saw this on a little list when I was researching
it,
but I hadn't seen it. Yeah,
it's so good. Again, written directed by a guy, Joel Anderson, who hasn't really done anything else. But it's a sort of a found footage / documentary about the aftermath of a girl who's drowned in Lake Mungo, and sort of concerns, her family and how they deal with it, and all sorts of. It is one of the scariest fucking movies I've ever seen. It's
nice,
really good, and really fucking creepy.
I'll definitely check that out. All right, over to the listeners then on Facebook. And again, I'll just plug, definitely join our new Facebook community group. And you too can have comments like this read out. Our good mate John from the Pint podcast, he said, Underwater. People really seem to hate this. When I finally saw it, I couldn't figure out why. Great creature film with a cool twist as to who or what the creature... Yeah, it's basically a remake of Alien.
It was kind of the Alien meets the Abyss, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I liked that.
I thought that was good.
That was only a couple of years ago. Day of the Dead. It's better than Dawn. There, I said it. And Jason X.
You're wrong, John.
People, including me, love to make fun of this because how ridiculous it is that this is in space. It's just ridiculously fun. I actually agree. I'm a fan of Jason in space.
How is he in space? Don't tell me. Don't spoil it. I will go and watch that one. Just out of pure curiosity.
Right. Over to X at Not Punny Honey said Aqua Slash and Spree, 2 movies I haven't heard of. Are you aware of those ones?
I certainly don't know. Aqua Splash.
No.
Spree sounds mildly familiar. I'm not sure what it is though. I'll have to go and check those out.
And a great friend of the show, DT from Space Castle, he said, too many people dislike Midsommar, and it needs to change. It's a fantastic film that's terribly misunderstood and underappreciated.
Who fucking dislikes Midsommar? I thought everyone loved that.
Yes. I mean, if I'd thought that was an underappreciated film, it would have made my list for sure.
Oh, for sure, it's a
fantastic movie. Anyone, if you don't like Midsommar, go watch Midsommar again, people.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember seeing the
I put that higher than Hereditary.
Oh, yeah. I remember seeing the 4-hour director's cut at the cinemas, and it's even better than, the theatrical cut. Very good.
It's one of the few. I mean, if you like A24 films, free plug to their website where they have collector's editions of director's cuts that are not available through any other avenue, and they are stunningly put together. And the Midsommar one is just beautiful. This cloth-bound slipcase, and it's gorgeous.
All right. Well, there we go. Thank you for sending in your feedback. And thank you, Dave, for counting down some good movies with me. This has been fun.
Yeah.
Next week, I believe we're getting to some Scorsese. and doing some Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, provided it's on streaming and I can have toilet breaks.
Well, I tell you what, I was lucky enough to last week when we caught up for a couple of beers, which was really nice. During the day, my lunchtime event got cancelled, so I was like, "Oh hell, the IMAX has just reopened. I'll go check this out." And you know me, you know that I cannot hold my water. I did for that entire movie. I did not need to get up once. It was. I don't want to, show my cards too early when we're going to chat about it next week. But
you're saying it was worth the $30 or $40 ticket to go to IMAX?
Then the also fucking $30 parking. Jesus Christ! It turned out to be a $60 expedition to the cinemas.
Do you regret it?
No.
All right, maybe I'll do IMAX then. That's a hell of a recommendation.
You know what it is about IMAX, and I guess we could talk about this next week. It's not even the screen for me; it's the sound. The sound is, yep. All right, well there you go. That's next week for you. In the meantime, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do that at wewatchedathing.com or wewatchedathing@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and X, all under the handle at wewatchedathing. And again, don't forget to join our new Facebook listener community.
Yes!
Links in the show notes.
Come hang out in the online.
If you want to help support the show, you can do that at patreon.com/wewatchedathing. Get lots of extra episodes, including our bonus music series, which has been a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you next week.
Goodbye.